Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Every Friday, millions of Muslims gather for the most blessed prayer of the week. But here's a question. Are we really praying it the way the Prophet ﷺ taught? Do you answer the adhān first or pray 2 rakahs of greeting when you enter the mosque? If you miss Jumu'ah, do you replace it with ẓuhr? Or is it too late for that? And what about arriving late, sitting in the back rows, or missing that golden hour when dua is always answered? So what's the first thing we should be thinking about on Friday morning?
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Preparation. The Prophet ﷺ emphasized ghusl, the ritual bath, along with wearing our best clothes and applying perfume. This isn't just about physical cleanliness. It's about approaching the gathering with dignity and respect for the occasion and for those around us.
Right, but I think a lot of people see this as optional, don't they?
They do, and that's the mistake. While scholars differ on whether ghusl is obligatory or highly recommended, the Prophet ﷺ said, "Whoever performs ghusl on Friday, then goes early to the mosque, it is as if he offered a camel in sacrifice. The reward is immense. Why would we want to miss that?"
That's powerful, and it makes sense. If we're preparing to meet friends for dinner, we dress nicely and make ourselves presentable. This is meeting with Allah's community for His worship. It deserves even more care.
Precisely. And this leads directly to the next issue, timing.
Arriving late?
Yes, many people show up during the khutbah or right at the end. They miss the entire sermon, sometimes even the early rows. The Prophet ﷺ described the reward for arriving early using the analogy of sacrificing animals, camels, cows, sheep, with the reward decreasing the later you arrive.
So it's not just about catching the prayer itself?
Not at all. The khutbah is part of the worship. In fact, listening to it attentively is obligatory. When you arrive late, you're not only missing blessings, you're also disrupting others who arrived on time.
Speaking of disrupting others, I've seen people literally climbing over rows of seated worshipers to get to the front. That can't be right.
It's explicitly forbidden. The Prophet ﷺ once saw a man stepping over people's shoulders while he was giving the khutbah. He told him directly, "Sit down, for you have caused harm and arrived late. If there's no clear path to the front, you sit where you can without disturbing anyone."
That's such a clear teaching. But what about the opposite problem? People who arrive early but then sit in the back rows even though there's space up front.
Another common mistake. The Prophet ﷺ encouraged us to fill the front rows first, and he said the best rows for men are the first ones. There's a hadith where he said, if people knew what was in the call to prayer and the first row, and they could not get it except by drawing lots, they would draw lots.
So there's actual competition for those front rows in the sight of Allah.
Exactly. Yet we see the opposite, people actively avoiding them out of laziness or habit.
Okay, so let's say someone does arrive while the khutbah is happening. Should they just sit down immediately? Or should they pray tahiyatul masjid, the 2 units of greeting the mosque?
This is where many people get confused. The authentic Sunnah is clear. Even if the Imam is delivering the khutbah, you should pray 2 brief rak'ahs before sitting. There's a famous incident where a man named Sulaik entered while the Prophet ﷺ was giving the khutbah and sat down. The Prophet ﷺ asked him, "Did you pray 2 rak'ahs?" He said no. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Stand and pray 2 rak'ahs and make them brief."
So it's actually commanded, not discouraged?
Commanded. This is one area where some Muslims follow opinions that contradict this direct instruction from the Prophet ﷺ. The evidence is clear and authentic.
That's really important to clarify. Now, what about before the khutbah starts, after the first adhān? I've noticed some people praying 2 rakahs then, thinking it's a sunnah specifically for Jumu'ah.
That's a misconception. There is no established sunnah prayer before Jumu'ah like there is before the ẓuhr. You can pray voluntary prayers, tahajjud, duha, whatever you wish, but there's no specific sunnah of Jumu'ah before the prayer. The confirmed sunnah comes after, either 4 rakahs in the mosque or 2 rakahs at home, as the Prophet ﷺ practiced both.
So people are adding something that wasn't part of the Prophet's practice.
Unintentionally, yes. And this is why knowledge is so important. So our worship aligns with what was actually taught.
There's a common issue seen in many mosques during the khutbah. People using their phones, checking messages, or scrolling through social media. What's the ruling on that?
This is one of the most widespread problems today. The Prophet ﷺ said, "If you say to your companion, 'Be quiet,' while the imam is delivering the khutbah, you have engaged in idle talk." If even telling someone to be quiet is considered idle talk that nullifies the reward, what about actively using your phone?
And it's not just about our own reward, the ringing, the notifications, the distraction to others.
Exactly. It's a form of harm to the congregation. At minimum, phones should be completely silenced, not on vibrate, but silent. Better yet, put them away entirely. This is 1 hour in the entire week dedicated to focused worship and community. We can disconnect from everything else for that time.
That's convicting. What about the physical arrangement of the rows themselves? Sometimes there are huge gaps between people.
The Prophet ﷺ was very particular about straightening the rows and closing the gaps. He said, "Straighten your rows, for straightening the rows is part of perfecting the prayer." When there are gaps, it's not just aesthetically displeasing. It goes against the explicit command to stand shoulder to shoulder.
So those small spaces between people actually matter.
They do. The Prophet ﷺ said that shaitan fills the gaps in the rows. It's both a spiritual and practical issue. Unified rows represent our unity as an ummah.
And what about if someone misses Jumu'ah entirely? Do they pray ẓuhr instead?
It depends on the reason. If someone missed it without a valid excuse, they just didn't go, the majority of scholars say they should pray ẓuhr as 4 rak'ahs, but they've missed the obligation of Jumu'ah and its immense blessings. If they missed it due to a legitimate excuse, illness, travel, caring for someone who's seriously ill, unavoidable work obligations where attending would cause genuine hardship, severe weather conditions, these are generally accepted, but convenience or laziness don't qualify.
That makes sense. Now, there's one more thing that might surprise people, and it's about personal grooming.
Oh, you're referring to shaving the beard.
Yes, some men make it a Friday ritual thinking they're beautifying themselves for Jumu'ah.
But that's actually contradicting a direct command, isn't it?
Unfortunately, yes. The Prophet ﷺ explicitly commanded men to trim the mustache and let the beard grow. This is found in multiple authentic hadiths in both Bukhari and Muslim. When someone shaves their beard, thinking it's part of Friday beautification, they're actually committing a prohibited act while intending worship. It's a fundamental misunderstanding.
So the beautification the Prophet ﷺ meant were things like ghusl, perfume, nice clothes, using the siwak.
Exactly. Things that are either obligatory or recommended, not things that are forbidden. We can't worship Allah by disobeying Him, even if our intention is good.
That's such an important principle. Good intentions don't make prohibited actions permissible.
Correct. Worship must be both sincere in intention and correct in form, following what the Prophet ﷺ actually taught.
So we've covered a lot. Is there anything else?
One another point that's crucial. Leaving the mosque after the second adhān without a valid excuse.
You mean once the iqama is called?
Even before that, once the second adhān is given, which signals the beginning of the khutbah, leaving becomes prohibited except for genuine necessity. Once that call comes, we're commanded to stay.
So someone who leaves at that point without a real emergency...
They're violating a clear Quranic command. It's not a small matter.
Subhanallah, these aren't small details. They're commands and teachings that shape the quality of our worship.
Exactly. Fixing them isn't hard. It just takes awareness and intention.
May Allah help us honor Jumu'ah as the Prophet ﷺ taught. If you benefited from this episode, like and comment the word Friday below and share one point you apply this week.